Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to Wilderness Wargaming. Today, we're going to take a look at another faction focus as we go ahead and try to get through all of these. We're going to take a look at the Grey Knights, the psychic armed militant of the Ordo Malleus. Now, the Grey Knights occupy a very interesting space because while they're technically Space Marines, they don't actually interact with the Space Marine Codex or Space Marine rules in any way. They're, for all intents and purposes, a completely separate army. Even though they are Space Marines, they're not custodians. I've seen people that claim that they're more powerful than normal Space Marines. I guess that's true in the absolute sense because every single one of them is a psyker. All their units are psychic, and it's just psychic all over the place with these guys. But like I said, they're not custodians. They have their own unique way of doing things. They're just a very highly specialized type of Space Marine to the point where they are, for rules purposes, a different faction altogether. Now, when I first started playing back in 2nd edition, Grey Knights were not a faction of their own. I guess maybe technically you could call them that, because they aim as basically something you could take as an ally in Imperial lists. But the only unit that was available were Terminators, and the whole squad was psychic. And they had a Nemesis force weapon, which was like a halberd with a Stormbolter, kind of similar to what Custodians use. I have not played against Grey Knights in the current edition. Nobody around here seems to play them. In fact, there was an entire painted army of them on sale for one of the local hobby stores for a while, which looked really nice. But I don't really believe in buying an army somebody else painted. And I don't need more armies. I have so many already that remembering the rules for all of them is already a problem. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into it and see what we have. Okay, demons are a real pain in the Imperiums behind. Yeah, that's true. That's really all these guys do is vanquish demons. They aren't even really that worried about Chaos Space Marines. They're mostly worried about getting rid of demons. Now, of course, you can play them against anyone because everybody's fighting everybody all the time. Demons are really what these guys are for dealing with. The problem is, of course, they're only one chapter. There's only approximately 1,000 of them, just like every other Space Marine chapter. So that doesn't give you a whole lot of Grey Knights to deal with things across the galaxy. All right, so what's their army arrow going to look like? Teleport Assault. They're really big on teleportation, apparently. And I'm not familiar enough with how the rules have worked up to this point to know whether to know to what degree they really focused on teleportation in previous editions, because like I said, I never played against them. But I gather that whether they were or not, now they're all about teleporting all the time. So if your army faction is Grey Knights, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can select a number of Grey Knights unit from your army with this ability, excluding units in engagement. You can select it based on the size of the battle. So if it's combat patrol, it's only 1. Most games, it's going to be 3, because you're going to play strike force. And if you're playing something really big, you're going to be up to 4 for onslaughts. Once you've made your selections, remove these units from the battlefield. And the reinforcement stages of your next movement phase, set up each of these units anywhere on the board as though 9 inches horizontally from any units that are not on the battlefield at the end of the battle count is destroyed. So basically, yeah, it's every single turn or every single battle round you can reposition up to 3 units in a 2,000-point game. Okay, the ability to pick up a handful of units each round and put them back down where you like is a powerful tool. Yeah, mobility like that is very, especially considering every infantry unit in their roster, and we'll have a note at the end, plus the hulking Nemesis Dread Knight suits also comes with the deep strike ability as standard. Wow. Okay, so you can be deep striking all over the place here. Units make their way, something like that. Okay, during battle formation step, if every model is in the unit has this ability, you can set up the reserves instead of on the battlefield. If you do it in the reinforcement step of movement phases, you can set this anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away horizontally from all enemy models. Okay. I think that they have kind of consolidated reserves and deep strike into the same thing in this edition. I certainly hope they do, because that was one of my big wishes for 10th edition. If I've missed something about this, please somebody let me know in the comments. Grey Knights always get to fight on ground of their own choosing. Their opponent will face an uphill struggle to pin them down or isolate objectives. Seizing control of the battlefield becomes even harder. Faced with a teleport strike force detachment. Faced with tricky terrain or blocking troops, these warriors can simply teleport shunt their way right through. So what does teleport shunt do? Every time a Grey Knights unit with the deep strike ability advances, instead add 6 inches to the movement characters in the unit can fly. Adding 6 inches to their move, and they can fly. So that means they can move to higher ground or toward the lower ground if they want to a lot more easily. Now, one thing to be aware of is that fly has changed in this new edition, and this is pretty important. You can't use it to jump over something like a hill or a building and land on the same level you started at, unless you measure the distance diagonally. So you need to measure diagonally up to your apex and then back down instead of measuring flat along the ground. And anybody who has taken basically middle school geometry will understand that that is going to make your movement longer, because you're now describing the hypotenuse of a right triangle, or actually two hypotenuses of two right triangles, one going up and one going down, rather than a straight line. Okay. But that's still going to give them quite a bit of mobility. They're going to really be able to move all over the board. Between this rule and the army rule, that's going to be incredibly useful. A lot of times these movement rules may not seem that devastating to begin with, because they aren't like something like that's causing mortal wounds or that's giving you re-rolls against targets or anything like that. That's just like, oh yeah, that's just going to rip things apart. But this is going to allow you to position your army where it can rip things apart, and that oftentimes is a lot more useful than just having more of what you've already got. If your army's already strong with the attacks, then the ability to get into position to launch those attacks is more important than making it stronger still. Now let's take a look at their purgation squad, and I'm not too familiar with Grey Knights, but I'm pretty sure that this is their troop selection, since they've generally looked at troops for most of the other armies. So let's see, 6-inch move, typical Space Marine, toughness 4, save 2 up, wounds 2, leadership 6, objective control 1. So they basically are Space Marines, a similar profile. They have, let's see, an incinerator, ignores cover, and torrent. So this is a flamer for all intents and purposes, except it's higher strength, strength 6. So this is even better than a Ministorum flamer that the Battle Sisters get. It's a super duper flamer, which is probably why it's not called a flamer. Silencer. Silencer, yeah. I love how they do that with the P. Psychic. This psychic sustained hits 1, so this is going to have exploding 6s for your hits. 6 attacks, ballistic skill 3, strength 5, AP 0, damage 1, and it counts as a psychic attack too for whatever benefits or penalties that gives you. Psi Cannon. I think every model is going to carry a silencer, and then you get your Stormbolter in addition. The Stormbolter here is no different than the other ones we've seen. The Psi Cannon, let's go back to that, is a psychic weapon, 24-inch range, attacks 3, ballistic skill 3, strength 8, AP minus 1, damage 2. Looks like these are either going to be high on strength but low on armor penetration, from what I'm seeing here. Pretty respectable number of shots. Oh, that's 6 attacks on the silencer. Maybe you can have one of these per unit. I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't played against them, so I haven't become too familiar with the Grey Knights rules. And melee, the close combat weapon, attacks 3, weapon skill 3, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. Okay, so that's respectable for close combat with 3 attacks. Volume of attacks with the regular close combat weapon can really help make up for having just a generic close combat profile. Drukhari got that in this edition. The fact that you had 2 attacks on even their basic troops, twice as many dice is, that's 100% improvement in your output. So that can, even if you're going down hard in melee, that's enough to at least allow you to take something with you most of the time. And for something like Grey Knights, they're going to be more dangerous than Drukhari and more attacks still. So that's good. Nemesis Force Weapon, Psychic. This is like it's always been like a big halberd thing with a cannon on it as well. Kind of similar to the Guardian Spears that Custodians use. Attacks 3, weapon skill 3, strength 6, AP minus 2, damage 2. So that's a lot. That's a good melee profile for a line unit. Very good. Definitely something you would want to have, I would think. Deep Strike, of course, Teleport Assault, just like we looked at up above, and they have something called Astral Aim, another psychic ability. In your shooting phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in this unit have the indirect fire ability. Oh. Provided the target weapon is visible to one or more other friendly Grey Knight Psyker units. Okay, so what this allows you to do, this is a little similar to how the Tau ability works. If you can't see a target, but it's in range, but another of your units can see the target, they can observe and allow the first unit to shoot at the target that it can't see using indirect fire. So that, of course, means that they'll they'll benefit more from cover, and it'll be harder to hit them, but it's better than not being able to shoot at all. That is nifty. In fact, this is kind of how I think indirect fire should work generally. Rather than having a bunch of penalties on it, it should be a thing where you can shoot at something seen by a different unit. But I will take it. I would take this. Yeah, this is a great ability to have. And what will be interesting to see is how prevalent this will be throughout the army. I wonder if this is a psychic thing. So I wonder how it's supposed to work. If it's that it's shooting through the warp to hit the enemy, or what. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight. So this guy was, for a while when Grey Knights had their moment of glory where they were just dominating all the tournaments. I don't think they were the only ones doing it, but they did have, like a lot of other armies in Ninth, a brief period where they were just absolutely dominant before there were some nerfs, and I believe it reduced the maximum number of Nemesis Dread Knight suits you could take in an army. But one of them was always the Grandmaster. I think a Grandmaster is supposed to be like a captain. And is not actually the Chapter Master, despite the name. 8-inch movement, toughness 8. Like other things, like vehicles, I guess it's gone up in toughness. Save 2 up. 13 wounds, leadership 6, objective control 4. Okay. Ranged weapons. Gatling silencers. This is the same thing as the guys up above had, except that it's 12 attacks. I guess that's that gun on his left wrist there. Heavy incinerator. So this is a 2d6 shot version of that incinerator that we saw up here, and the range goes out to 18 inches. That is very nice. A flamer type weapon with an 18-inch range is amazing. Heavy side cannon, which ironically is not actually heavy. It does not have the heavy keyword. It's just psychic. 24-inch range, attack 6, ballistic skill 3, strength 10, AP -1. Damage 3, pretty good. And then melee weapons, you can have Dread Fists, of course, attack 6, weapon skill 3, strength 6, AP -1. I think this is the default option. And then you can have a Nemesis Demon Great Hammer, attacks 5, skill 4, strength 14, AP -3, damage D6 +1. That's your real heavy hitter there. And then you have the more versatile option, which is the Nemesis Greatsword. So you can have 5 attacks at strength 10, AP -2. Damage D6, and then the sweeps, melee, strength, attacks 10, weapon skill 3, strength 5, AP -1, damage 1. Now, I notice the weapon skills are all 3s and 4s here, so this guy is not going to have the 2-up that army commanders, generally speaking, have in Ninth. I wonder if that's going away across the board, or if it's something with the Nemesis Dread Knight. I probably should look back and figure that out. If it is something that's been obvious, then I have overlooked it. So what has he got? He has Surge of Wrath, psychic ability. Once per battle round in the fight phase, one model from your army can use it before resolving attacks. If it does, until the end of the phase, each time the model makes a target against a monster or vehicle, you can reroll a hit, wound, and damage roll. So you can do this once per battle round. And then Heroes, each time you target this model, strategy and all costs 1 CP to use even. That's good. That's pretty good. You might want to keep this, if you're fighting this guy there, you want to keep him battle shock so he's not just stratagemming all over the place. And he gets incremented, or bracketed on 4 wounds, and he has a 4 pinfall. Okay. So let's see. Weapon Spotlight. This is Purifying Flame. I'm not sure what unit this is going to be on. It's obviously not going to be on Purgation Squads because they have something else. So we'll see what is Purifying Flame. Anti-infantry 2-up, ignores cover, insight. Ooh, yikes. That's going to be rough if you have infantry. 18-inch, 1 attack, ballistic skill 3, strength 4, AP -1, damage 1. So you do have to still at least roll a hit. It's only 1 attack. It's not a flamer, despite the name. Okay, and finally, we've got a stratagem here. Haloed and Soulfire. In your movement phase, till the start, your unit cannot be targeted by range attacks unless the attack model is in 12 inches. This was handy. This is something I don't have any armies that can do this. I do have individual units that can in some armies, but this is great because you can do is you can come in and then you can position something to where the enemy has to move in order to get within 12 inches, which is great for making an enemy make a choice. Do they want to go after this unit that might be a really valuable target, or do they want to keep going with what they were already doing? This is one that can. It isn't so much that it prevents your opponent from shooting at you, as what it does is make them make unfavorable choices to do it. Radiant Strike. Oh, we got 2 stratagems. Okay, teleports. in the fight phase until the end, 1 Draenei Psychic unit until the end of the phase. Melee weapons with Psychic have devastating wounds. So that's great. That's a pretty tough one. Now both of these are expensive stratagems, but notice you could use these on Mr. Grandmaster here and only cost 1 CP to do these things. Now he's granted only 1 model, but that is going to be great when you're using those stratagems on him for only 1 CP. All right, and here we have some fighting the, looks like Cornate demons there. This is a cool picture. I like that one a lot. That's definitely one of my more favorite ones that I've seen. Okay, we were look friendly by comparison. Yeah, these guys are also noted for being very, very remorseless. They are contributors to one of the Imperium's more ridiculous techniques, which is just basically wiping out huge populations, including of trained soldiers, sometimes even of like Adepta Sororitas, who've had contact with demons because they know too much of chaos now. This is not working. This is a terrible idea, and it's really not used because the risks of chaos are quite real. But by the same token, you're doing their work for them when you are purging large numbers of people just because they learned about chaos. At this point, with the Cicatrix Maledictum chopping half the galaxy in half, it is really, really absurd to be still trying to hide it. At some point, this is just going to become too self-defeating to continue, assuming that Games Workshop has a modicum of good sense in their writing. Some good Black Library books here. I have not read any of these, but I wouldn't mind reading them. What's coming up? Drukhari is coming up next. I think maybe we're a little... They actually seem to have slowed down just a little bit on this. Because the pace they've gone, I was expecting them to already have Drukhari out. But that's good because it gives me an opportunity to catch up a little bit. Those who aren't subsequently are seeing too much anyway. Yeah, like I said, and except for servitors, poor guys. Every unit in their roster. Okay, so if there evidently are servitors in their roster, and servitors cannot take advantage of these rules, but everyone else can. So anyhow, we'll be back with you with Drukhari as soon as it comes out. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing a 13-hour pork butt smoke, and we will have that for you. And we're going to try to get more of the playthrough of Inquisitor Martyr done, and make some progress on that, and maybe do a few more videos on some of the intricacies of that game. Since I think it's a hidden treasure of a game. Anyhow, please remember to like, subscribe. Thank you for watching. We really appreciate you. Please leave a comment down below as well. We'd really like to know what you think. And please remember to click the notifications bell for more great content in World of Wargaming, and I will see you back here again very soon. Bye-bye.